Bé, bon dia i benvinguts a aquesta Startup Talk que porta per títol Com construir relacions sòlides amb inversors. Bé, abans de passar a la sessió, deixeu-me dir-vos que totes les startups us podeu inscriure al hub, startupshub.catalonia.com, i a partir d'aquí en poden sorgir temes interessants, com pugui ser que alguns inversors puguin veure el vostre perfil a la base de dades, que nosaltres fem estudis a partir d'aquesta informació, o també que nosaltres, durant els Open Innovation Challenges, el que fem és treure startups d'aquesta base de dades per resoldre els challenges d'algunes corporacions. I també deixeu-me recordar, a nivell de perfils de startups, que la setmana passada vam fer la Catalan Pitch Competition, Startups to Funding, dins del Tech Spirit Barcelona, i que les 50 empreses, startups que vam considerar amb millor resums, amb millor proposta, teniu els resums executius penjats al nostre web. I després, properament, també hi tindreu la informació. I bé, pel que fa al ponent d'avui, l'Andrey, l'Andrey Kostyuk, que també estava al l'Est-UF la setmana passada, ell al final té una extensa carrera laboral i de formació. Ara mateix ets General Partner a Alchemy, la sessió serà en anglès, no? També ets co-founder de Mentormatic, has estat líder al Founders Institute a Xipre, també has estat professor a la Pompeu Fabra, membre convidat, i a nivell d'educació començaríem pel final, perquè ets doctor per la Grenoble École de Management, perquè ho vam comentar el seu dia, amb un tema relacionat amb el mentoratge, que és una mica el que comentarem avui. I també tens una extensa carrera d'ESADE a London Business School, i també al final ets llicenciat en Economia per la Universitat de Plekanov. I bé, jo, Andrew, ja dit tot això, we're going to switch to English, okay?
Sure.
No problem. And I would start with a question, or just one question, and you can expand it on how you explain things, the storytelling, how you work with your story, your current situation, where you come, in order to convince investors.
Yeah, sure. Storytelling effectively is undervalued in what we tend to do. When people tend to pitch, they quite often see it as a technical exercise. Okay, I have a template with 10 slides, I need to fill them with information, I need to come to the stage, be able to convey within 3 or 5 minutes information from those 10 slides, and that's the end of story. If you put yourself in the boots of the jury in front of you, who are watching like 8, 10, 12, maybe 20 pitches in a row, you will understand that you kind of start merging, fusing together in a sense, in the one big crowd until and unless you have a convincing story, an engaging story to tell. And that's what really underappreciated in many cases when people are taught how to pitch. And we have actually a special slide on that. I'll just scroll forward into that. Yes, here we have a startup journey. What's Freytag pyramids or a storytelling arc or whatever? That's how all the movies, all the plays, all the screenplays are prepared. That's known for like thousands of years, but formalized in 20th century when that became an industry, a proper industry. And we have 5, okay, in certain cases there are more, but nevertheless, then 5 steps in your storytelling. You have an inciting incident, you have a rise in action, you have a climax, which is like, what's happening here in that particular place. A fall in action after the climax, and finally the resolution. And that's how you build your story, a good story. And in case of early stage startup, like how we can use that. So in inciting incidents, you spot a real problem, you understand, okay, there's something to work with. I need to try to build a business out of that. And normally it's some inefficiency that you discovered on your own. Okay, consider Uber, the famous story, like 2 guys standing on the cold, rainy day and trying to get a taxi. Okay, there's something can be done about it, and that's not our personal problem, that's a common problem. Now we see Ubers, Lyfts, and Bolts around the globe. So rising action, then when you understand if it's your personal problem or it's a common problem worth pursuing. So you dive deeper, understanding how big the problem is. Finally, in that case, a climax could be an investor pitch, investor conversation, following action. If you convince them to continue to do the due diligence, negotiations, and finally you'll have your funding closed. Is it the end of the story? No, because what I'm also saying and trying to put it into context, consider yourself like not filming a movie. Consider yourself like filming a series. And that's your first season. Because, okay, like funding closed, what happens? You need the next story, maybe for a different audience. But your inciting incident would be this funding closed. Okay, I have money. What do I do with this money? And then the rise in action would be using this money for a good cause, finally achieving the milestone which you wanted, probably securing another round. And that goes in those cycles until hopefully the exit.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, Andrew. So another point that we were thinking was how you persuade those investors. You know, because the investor is supposed to be like an analytic person, analytic mind. They like her data. They want real stuff, but they are also human people. So, as you say, okay, storytelling is also something that fits in the human mind. So, how you persuade investors, how you create this willingness to invest in your startup?
No, again, that's a whole discipline, and that's a whole science behind persuasion. It's not something which you need to invent. It's something you need to study. And we have a different slide on that. It's a storytelling, a golden thread. So, and this is a foundations and modern perspectives in persuasion. As you see, it started in ancient Greece, like very long ago, with Aristotle. And if you see, it's very logical, right? You need to use both emotion and logic in your persuasion approach, but also be credible. So this ethos, pathos, and logos is effectively a very strong foundation for you to understand how it works. You can't you can theoretically, but you will be way less efficient. If you try to persuade somebody only on logic or only on emotion, or even if you use both, but you are not credible, you didn't build your own brand. So people don't see like who you are, why you're speaking like about that. What right do you have to speak about it? By the way, in terms of pitching, from time to time I'm telling startups these famous 10, 12 slides. Yes, there is a right way, like right components of information, but you can shift it around. It's not prohibited. Mm-hmm. So if you speak about deep tech startup, for example, for me it's advisable to put the founder slide at the beginning. That's a part of persuasion story because, okay, you speak about highly technical, highly scientific things, like who you are.
Yeah.
And that question hangs in the air from the very beginning. Very different from building, I don't know, application for beach volleyball, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how you build credibility in that conversation.
So in both companies or in both general kind of companies, at the end of the day, team is also important in both. I know it's important.
No, team is always important, but that's a different story because, okay, you identify that beach volleyball has an issue with application. Kind of many people can build this application, right?
Yeah.
You maybe have a competitive advantage of being first to market. In terms of deep tech, your competitive advantage is like the knowledge gap that you build.
Knowledge, technology.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it should work differently in terms of the persuasion. Okay. And then we have Cialdini. It's one of the main scientists, but also a very good communicator, popular science person. And he expanded that into 6 principles. Mm-hmm. Reciprocity, and I think you all noticed in your life that if you are given something as a gift or you feel yourself kind of obliged to reciprocate. And there's a great book on that called The Gift by Mouth. That's a German scientist. It has an anniversary this year, 100 years. So that's how long people study that stuff.
Yeah.
So if you think about reciprocity, you can again use it both ways. You can give something to people, or you can consciously understanding that if people give me something, maybe they expect me to reciprocate, and you need to consider if it's a persuasion or manipulation. That's another important thing.
Yeah.
Commitment and consistency, again, that's I think obvious, because each time you speak with investors, they check you about how committed you are and how consistent you are with your efforts in building what you are building. Social proof is also a big thing, and the whole business model of influencers is built on social proof. They kind of piggyback on that component of persuasion.
Yeah.
For authority, that's when you can kind of build your communication based on something or someone who is perceived as undisputable authority. Again, like, the theory of relativity, like you build it on an Einstein. You don't need to explain a lot. Again, liking, it's important that people like what you are doing, and scarcity, it's a famous FOMO principle, which in startup world, as we know, used left and right, meaning like either you need to invest right now because we have a short time, or you need to invest right now because we have just so many shares left, and that's the scarcity principle behind us.
Okay, also called FOMO.
That's
Right
FOMO,
now.
that's what I say, yes. It's
Yeah, yeah.
FOMO is like, it's a popular like name
Yeah.
for scarcity principle. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, do you have another slide,
Yes,
or you
yes.
want me to move to?
No, on persuasion we can check
Ah,
what we
okay.
have here, yes.
Because, yeah, persuasion.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so if we can expand again, we kind of split it or dissect it a little further. For social influence, again, reciprocation, social proof, liking, unity, like again, we act together, authority, as we discussed. That's the social influence component in persuasion, which again, you can use or like reflect if it's been used on you. Again, we have cognitive biases and perceptions. Contrast is one of my favorite, actually, and it's used by high street retail, left and right again. So if you come to, I don't know, a Hermes boutique,
Yeah.
and you see a bag which costs like 30, 50,000, it's not because they're crazy, and not because they tailor only for high-end customers. They do, but it has a more meaningful use, because immediately you see a bag for 10,000, and it's perceived as a cheaper than if you enter and see this bag first. They know it, and if you think about it, it's very, very, very important. And sorry. Again, anchoring is more about negotiations. I like this principle. I speak about that in negotiation. Okay, we can refer to that here because negotiations. Okay, let's leave it for negotiation part, maybe.
Yeah, we can leave it, because I was going to move to negotiation.
Yes.
I don't know if it's the
We
correct
just,
order.
no, we just do one slide just to finish.
Okay, let's finish this, and
Yes,
then we're gonna move to
Of course. So
negotiation.
foot on the door in the face, it's two sides of the same coin, like the very popular name. Foot on the door is giving something small which people accept and then ask for a real favor that you wanted, which, as you see, is grounded in reciprocity principle again. Door in the face is the other way around. You ask something which will not be granted, people reject it and feel uncomfortable. And then you ask what you wanted to ask. Similar to priming. Again, novelty and emotion, that's, again, novelty is our innovation in startups, right? Like, that's, again, a very powerful principle. People like novelty and emotion, same as Aristotle. Like, don't be only logical. Like, use emotions as well.
Okay, and now we have been talking about pitching, about delivering the message, about the techniques. Also, some of them apply to negotiation, okay? But now we're going into negotiation. And negotiation means another thing for the founder. Means that he has to have, or at least have work and other abilities, okay? It's supposed to, founders are supposed to be people that can communicate, are people that know deeply their sector. Okay, if not, that could be a problem. And now we are expecting them also to negotiate. Okay, so Andy, what can you tell us about the negotiation process? How you prepare that?
Yes, first of all, I would like to speak about the communication strategy a little, like how that develops, because it's an error, I would use this word,
Yeah,
to think that negotiation is when you sit at the table. It's like, no, like
exactly.
negotiations start way, way early, and it actually starts with your value proposition. As soon as you decide what you are building, you already frame your future negotiations. That's a framework with which you approach negotiation part. So you define what you do. You have your value proposition. You immediately select investors you will be speaking with, right at this moment in time.
This moment you choose or you decide
Yes.
what are the investors that are going to
Exactly.
be during your
It's
journey.
not even your decision. Okay, you want to build this product and this business model, and it effectively selects investors you will be speaking with.
Okay.
And that leads to another mistake. You know, this spray and pray, it's not only for investors, it's for startups as well.
Yeah.
And they, you know, share it around, like sending presentations. Actually, my favorite conversation, funny one, was at the Venture. It was the day zero of Web Summit this year, when they collect the investors together to discuss it. And we have some working tables, and one of the tables was like what like founders do wrongly in terms of approaching investors. And we have a guy who is running a large VC for LGBTQ founders only. And he says, my favorite joke is the following. I receive a deck from somebody who is not in the area. And I just asked him, so I assume you are like LGBTQ founder. And he said, like, why? Because that's our thesis.
Yeah.
Meaning you didn't read it.
Yeah.
It leads to a lot of embarrassment and a little fun for the VCs. That's an extreme example.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it
yeah.
depicts very well what can happen if you really don't read the thesis of the investors you speak with.
It happens. It happens.
It happens all the
Yeah,
time.
we see that. We see
So
that.
that's why you have your value proposition, end of story, you framed. If you try to go left, right without changing value proposition, it's waste of everybody's time. Then storytelling, which we covered, and then we have persuasion on merits. You don't negotiate, you speak with investors on the merits of the deal. You don't even speak about numbers. It's just about communicating like that the deal is good in general. It has opportunity to be kind of researched. And that persuasion of merits effectively is your pitch deck, because you have 3 to 5 minutes, and you're not supposed to go deep into your product, your solution. It's impossible, humanly impossible. Your only goal is to get to your next meeting, not to get funded. So that's what I call persuasion on merits.
And this is you as a founder. You are like explaining it, or you are just sending it and people will read. Is there a difference?
It can happen two ways. You can pitch on stage, you can send it over, and by the way, it's two different pitch decks.
Exactly. Okay.
It's also an important point. Thank you for reminding me to focus on that, because when you present, like we do today, you see very just few words. You make a point. It's rather a plan for you what to speak about than something to send over. When you send over the deck, you are supposed to kind of fill it with information. Okay, one of the best techniques, obviously, is the hyperlinks. So you don't have 50 slides, you have the same 10, 20 slides, maybe it could be more expansive. But again, you send this deck not to be considered on an investment committee, right? You send this deck for desk reject or being invited for a conversation. So again,
it's 1 or 0.
Yes, don't overdo it, but give all the references here. One of the good ideas for me is that, okay, you give the numbers. Again, the famous tam, sum, sum, right?
Yeah.
Okay, where did you get these numbers? If you put here a hyperlink to the research, it immediately answers the question for a person who reviewing it. He clicks, he takes a look, okay, it's viable, check. You don't have this link, it's just numbers thrown out of the blue.
Yeah, we've seen that people ask and they have lots of questions on how you calculate those amounts. So,
course.
so what you're saying is very reasonable. Also in the past, when we used to see more LTV or CAC, you
That's a
know,
favorite, yeah.
that was also something that it come just like when investors were talking to startups. That was one of the first things, how you calculate, what you take into account in those calculations. So very good point, and Andrew,
No,
on that.
CAC, LTV, again, early stage startups, you have mostly assumptions, especially on LTV.
Uh-huh.
You can have early proof of what your CAC looks like, but LTV is your wild guess.
Exactly.
One of the things you can actually technically do is to say that you will be sending annual packages only or discounted, so people will buy mostly annual packages
Yeah.
without opportunity to refund. And that gives you initial LTV for a year for this amount of money. Like, use that because that at least gives you some foundation.
Yeah, we have time, so if you want to get deeper
Yeah, sure.
in any of those issues or topics,
No, we're just
You are-
we're just in the middle.
okay, cool.
So we have negotiation, which starts only now. You are invited, if you persuade people on merits, you're invited to the table to negotiate. And then you have to persuade them on fairness of the deal. Now you speak numbers,
Yeah,
both what are in the model and what you are requesting as an investment. And finally, only then you can come to negotiated agreement. Again, that's my process. As I see it, could be longer, could be shorter, could be different. Like, that's not set in stone. Don't use it kind of as an ultimate authority. But for me, it makes plenty of sense.
but who would have to lead in this case the process? Is led by the startup founder or by the investor?
It's
Or
until persuasion on merits, it's a startup-led process. When negotiation starts, because of leverage and power, it starts being led by investors until the startup is very good.
okay,
You know the famous pay flow, right?
yeah,
So they've been in a different situation this year with the round. I spoke with Benoit, and he was saying, okay, I had 4 term sheets for this round. That's kind of shifts power and leverage significantly. Now you can entertain like a more equal position. Normally, of course, power is with the investors.
yeah, but that will be
You
the
can just,
optimal,
you
having
can just scroll to that negotiation part now. We are going back and forth,
yeah,
but we have some, okay, so ethical persuasion, I'll just show that, and that's ethical test actually. Going back, but negotiation is the same. So when you know all the data, if you still agree with what you've done, you've been persuaded. If not, it's been manipulated. So your pitch deck, okay, investors understanding, and yes, that's a game, so negotiations, finally. So here is actually the article in Forbes, I think it's 2020, which is really good, and you can come and take a look at that. But with this title, you'll find it. I can scroll it here. I grouped, they had 15 kind of questions and issues covered. I grouped it, you see the color coding. So now effectively there are 3 things to speak about here. So what you need in negotiations, why to listen and understand other party. Looks obvious, but if we skipped the competitive versus cooperative game, if you try to play a win-win, which is a smart thing to do, you need to understand what other party wants. It's impossible without listening. Simple as that. Professional courteous negotiations. Just remember the saying which was really enlightening for me, which goes as, be hard on the problem, soft on people. Like, that's it. Even if you see it as kind of, stepping in your territory, really aggressive, separate people from the problem. It could be difficult on emotional level, you can see it as unjust, but just, increasing the temperature in the room, especially being in a weak position, will lead you nowhere. Just do that. This real decision maker, that's authority game played a different way. So when somebody negotiates with you and tells you then, okay, deal is good, but I need to speak with the chief now. That means they play the limited authority game.
They play the game, or it's real?
No, they play the game with you.
Okay.
It was from the very beginning.
Yeah, but for example, in in venture capital, you have the analysts, okay, that they attend events, they attend you know, and they are like the gatekeeper,
Mhm.
but they don't decide at the end, but they decide if your proposal will achieve the
Yeah,
people
no, we speak
who will
about already
decide.
negotiations at a later stage when
Exactly.
you speak with somebody in the firm and you have an impression that he is or she is a decision maker,
Yeah.
and then they say, no, now we need to get,
They're
to,
playing the game.
yes, we need to get the deal vetted, and they come back and say, the board or the chief or whoever told me that we need to negotiate this, and that. So you always say, I want to speak with decision maker now.
Okay.
Or you can try to play the game, okay, I need to go back to the board and speak with them, but better to ask at the very first meeting, politely but firmly, do you make decisions or we're just having a conversation? Just
Okay.
not to fall into this trap.
Interesting. Yeah,
And
yeah.
asking the right questions is exactly to understand what's happening, because then we go to being able to shape the deal, as you know. Understanding deal dynamics goes quite well with the fourth one. The enemy is like time enemy of many deals. And that's exactly the case, because deals tend to get sour as time goes by, because you live in a moving world. VCs can get a better option, or they can invest in their fund while they're speaking with you. Okay, many things can happen. Yeah, political things can happen. Economic can be in turmoil, whatever.
Yeah.
Just don't delay too much. Poker face, be ready to walk away. Important thing in terms of knowing your boundaries, sticking to those boundaries, and not kind of getting below your boundaries before you think. So come prepared and don't go below, because if you prepared, you had this boundary because of something.
Yeah.
You have always an inclination, okay, I surrender that and we have a deal. First of all, maybe you won't have a deal. And they continue demanding concessions. So better to walk away.
Well, how would you define the boundaries
No,
of a
it's
startup?
it's a little bit later.
Ah,
It's
okay,
about
sorry.
target reservation price, as they call it.
Okay,
We'll
yeah.
move immediately there.
Okay.
Negotiating but continually conceding happens the following way. You go and say, okay, my valuation is 10 million. They tell you, like, really, so high? And you say, okay, for you 9. Like, okay, better, but still quite high. You say, okay, you great VC fund. Okay, only for you 8. And you notice, like, you didn't get a counter offer. You're negotiating with yourself. You get on dropping your target without getting anything in return. No, get people into negotiation range first.
Yeah, that's interesting, because valuation is not at the center. It shouldn't be at the center. It's important, but sometimes it's in the center. And a lot of companies or a lot of startups or some investors complain about valuations going high. Maybe it's a market dynamics, but what you were saying is very important in order to overcome this first like stone in the path that can
No,
break
you
deals.
simply ask them, okay, if you see it's too high, like what you see is as fair.
Okay.
Whatever they say, like you say 10, they say 1, okay, now we have at least something to work with, because before that you still have 0.
Yeah, exactly.
Fixating on deal and direct alternatives. Very simple to understand, because you give your counterparty a monopoly over you. Like, not a very good idea, actually.
Exactly.
Hanging up on one issue can happen. You have a term sheet of, 30 items. And item 3, section 3 is kind of, you see as not acceptable. And you start speaking and you can't agree on anything. Don't hang up on that, go forward. Speak about other stuff, come back to this one. When you have 27 things negotiated, it becomes much easier. And we know that from like our school days, right? When you do the examination, you first do all the tasks you know, and then you try to deal with something you don't.
Good point. Good point. It's like a matter of putting more time
Yes.
where you have
Exactly.
more.
Fix what you can fix, and then you have
Yeah.
more time and better psychological condition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're also more like motivated or happy.
Of course.
Yeah.
Never accept the first offer. Same story. In each culture, there is a negotiation margin.
Yeah.
Like in Sweden, for example, could be very low. I don't know. In India or Pakistan could be very high, but there is always a negotiation margin. So try to squeeze something for you out of that offer. Again. And finally, the third case, be prepared. That's important for obvious reasons. Draft first version of the agreement, that's what, not me, that's what Forbes was saying. And that's
Okay.
good for general stuff,
Yeah.
not good for startups.
Okay.
You will be given a term sheet. But how you can leverage that advice? Easy. In pitch deck, there is two schools of thought. One school says, like, don't put on a pitch deck what you ask in terms of money.
Money. Okay.
Second school of thought, to which I belong, like,
Yeah.
put it on the deck. Like, how much money you're raising, what's the valuation or value cap, how you use those money. Why? Not because of pitching, not pitching, because of negotiation strategy. That's anchoring we've been speaking about.
Yeah.
That's how you make your move into negotiations.
So your proposal is also shared valuation, because I always thought that maybe valuation is something that you would end up negotiating.
You
That can
would-
change. But if you put that, people will know also that
You anchor.
that you end up negotiating.
Important thing when you do anchoring, not to be
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Uh-huh.
Meaning, okay, I don't know, like normal valuation is 5 for this kind of business. You
Yeah.
put 10.
Yeah.
People just say that's crazy people
Yeah.
that don't know what they're speaking about. You put 6,
Yeah.
you're not crazy, you're ambitious.
Okay. Okay. So share the valuation,
Yes.
but
Share
share
the
a reasonable
reasonable,
valuation.
ambitious, but reasonable. Why ambitious? Never accept the first offer. VCs know it better than you.
Okay. Yeah.
Whatever you ask, that will be negotiated.
Yeah.
Give yourself a room.
No, very good point, because I know that everybody knows, but VCs know better than you. They do that
Of course.
every day. Yeah, and you only do once, and maybe you have done it twice, okay? But yeah, they know better than you, and they are aware of market valuation, market conditions, blah blah blah. So
And that's
it's important.
go back to be prepared
Exactly.
because they are prepared.
Yeah, they are ready. They were born ready. Yeah. Okay. Well, no. There was like prepare a letter, no?
Yeah, that's about draft first version. Prepare LOI. That's about it translates into this slide in your pitch deck.
Uh-huh.
That's your first version of what you are asking. You do anchoring in your negotiation. And finally, help of best advisors and lawyers is again a clear thing. Same as VCs, those guys do it for living. So they are prepared. They know it better than you. Same as VCs. So that's a very valuable ally. So that's not money wasted,
Yeah,
for sure.
Maybe it has to be the first, not the first, but key point, because then they also help you to deploy the other.
Of course. Of course. They are not they're not arranged in kind of hierarchical order. They are mostly like group into the logically grouped. here.
Okay. We're talking about a negotiation process, okay? Well, you are the expert, but there's another point in the negotiation process, which is be prepared, okay? And be prepared means that you know what you want, your boundaries, what you can give, offer, but also means that you have analyzed let's say counterpart, okay? Because at the end maybe you will be like united for some time, okay? But how you put in the shoes as a founder in the shoes of the investor, and how you analyze that
That's a good one.
model.
So, okay, we'll go through that, through Lao Tzu, because you see, like, 6th battle after the victory has been won. So you come to negotiations when you really know what you're doing, when you're really prepared and know how that should be unfolding. Otherwise, that would be the other way around. That's about the preparation. 5 considerations, and that actually speaks about what you're asking. Important thing is interest versus positions, and to understand that position is what is declared. Interest, what is real behind this position. So again, one of the examples I always say, imagine you have a venture fund who is at the end of its investment period and still has a lot of money to deploy. So their interest would be to deploy funds to reasonably good startups. So they are not like in a picky and choosy mode now. They need to invest. That would be their interest. Their position would be, okay, we see that you are a good startup, so we can consider potential investment in your company, provided that ABC. So position would be like that. Interest would be very different, and you need to cut through that and understand how to do that. Then you go to options, how to decide those interests, standards for resolving differences, and in our case, it's statistics about how those rounds been unfolding. in this geography, in this year, in this industry. That's the best standards. Okay. Alternatives to negotiations for you is either bootstrapping, continue bootstrapping,
Yeah.
or speak with other investors, and proposals for agreement to do that. So for interest versus positions, it's look more or less like that. Real interest, how to satisfy this interest, and how to structure the proposal to satisfy this interest. And counterparty interests can be different. Actually, if you see, for example, if you take these 4 players in the field, they all invest, right? It seems that you are all investing, but how the interests are different. So for business angels, they have interest to invest in something they can resell to VCs, like get an early exit, not to sit with everybody else, because that would be a little bit too long. We do that, but we prefer to exit at round B, let's say. Venture capital need to invest in something that can grow to 100x multiple because of their business model. They don't interested in low growth companies. And that piggybacks on us, how we choose companies to choose.
Another interesting thing, it's not on the process, but you choose companies not for their, or just for their growth potential, okay, but because they are fundable by a VC. If they are not fundable by a VC, you won't end up investing.
Kind of young or unprofessional business angels do.
Yeah.
They mix up to, I did it myself. You mix up two things.
Yeah.
You mix up a company which is good for a family office, a classical business model,
Okay.
versus a startup which needs to grow. Again, now it's not like in crazy 1920, like when only growth was counted for. So you kind of, classic company needs to grow. Startup needs to make money. But if you have an equilibrium, in classic one it goes into profit, and startups will go into growth. Because we need to do it with VCs. And VCs will invest only in something that can grow.
Okay.
Private equity would have a different thing. Like they have portfolio synergies, they have operational efficiencies, so they have a different interest in you. CVC, there's kind of always an embedded danger, sorry, Vaira and others, that they invest in a company not for financial reasons, but for product reasons. Why is it important to consider? Because it can put brakes on your exit.
Yeah. That's very important to keep in mind. There are a lot of that invest, and they invest like they can co-live with financial investors, but it's something to take into account.
No, you need to. I have a company now, which in the States, which does analytics for streaming companies, doing greatly, but they have Bertelsmann as an investor of 25%, and I'm kind of always cautious how that will be unfolding when it times to exit, how they will act.
Yeah.
Because it will be a clear conflict of interest in a sense.
They will act based on the shareholders' agreement, mainly.
Yes, but that's why they secured such a large stake.
Yeah, okay.
So they have a lot of preemptive rights and stuff.
Okay. Good to know. Okay, well, in the negotiation process, you have BATNA.
Yes, we have, again, power leverage, self-explaining, authority kind of we discussed, target reservation price. That's exactly how it's called. Like target is what you want to achieve, reservation is like the minimum you agree. It's not only price, it's like conditions in general. It's called price, but it's a wider consideration. And obviously you have a starting price. Going back to having room for negotiations, you set something over the target price to start it. BATNA stands for Best Alternative to Negotiated Agreement, and ZOPA stands for Zone of Potential Agreement. So BATNA is outside of negotiation, that's important, you don't have it within it, so it's what you do outside. Reservation price based on BATNA, meaning like if you have term sheet for 10 with one investor, 8 with another, okay, your reservation price with this investor, something like 8 point something, because you need to remember that. You need to account expenses. You leave negotiations, you have another 3 months, another lawyers, this and that, so it's better to give it some leeway. Better more than one BATNA, same as pay flow story. Don't disclose it because yes, it's a nuclear move. If you do it, you can't step back.
Talking about this, for example, sometimes investors ask the startup, are you talking to other investors?
Of course.
Yeah, but sometimes they ask you, who are those investors? That would be unveiling the name of those investors would be disclosing your BATNA, or it's not that important.
I would not do that because of a very simple reason. They can know those investors.
So
And
what would you?
no, see,
Wouldn't you do?
I'm speaking with another VCs who invest in the same space.
Yeah, but don't tell
You
who
can also
are.
say we are under NDA, we can disclose it.
Okay.
So because that's kind of stepping in your territory, trying to get advantage in knowledge.
Exactly.
And you can just respond in kind.
Yeah, and other no, but that's important because sometimes people are more open, when they say, well, we're gonna share. There are things that maybe you don't have to share. Other things
It
that
also depends on stage. For example, if you
Yeah.
have, I don't know, a term sheet signed already,
okay.
you can say, not disclosing the terms, you can say, yeah, we already kind of in the very advanced stage with this and that.
Okay.
Because even if they speak, you have a term sheet signed. You have
Okay.
commitment already.
Okay, are there other situations that you would like say don't share this information? Because when we talk to startups, we say, well, at the beginning maybe you don't want to share like something that is your big secret. Big secrets don't exist, okay? But just as a way to define things, and maybe you want to explain it later, with from Word and without putting things in a deck, because you don't know sometimes where do decks end up, are there other things that you
There's a
would?
very general consideration,
Okay.
actually. Like,
Yeah.
you can share something, or you should share something that can strengthen your position.
Okay,
If there is no strengthening, then why would you do it?
Good
Because you probably will strengthen the other party position by sharing.
okay. So if it's good for you, share it. If it's not good for you,
No,
do
keep
not
it.
share
You
it.
can always refer to NDA. Say, I would be happy, but NDA prohibits me to do that.
Okay, we still have time for the audience just to share questions with us, okay? And we still have time
Again, we'll
just to
just
keep on.
finish with that one
Yeah, but
because
we
that's...
have time, Andrei. If you wanna
Okay, perfect.
expand on Zopa,
Yes, it's very clear.
Okay.
It works like that.
okay.
It's very graphic. So important again, imagine like you have your target price of like 10 and reservation of 8. And investor have a target of 7 and reservation of 9. In our case, it's like 70, 80, like same story.
Yeah.
So then you have a range. Within the range you can negotiate. So it intersects. If you have like 8 to 10 and investor has like 6 to 7, there's nothing you can do until you change something in your offer. Either you move your target price, you throw something in the game, because otherwise you'll spend a year talking and without any kind of success.
And would you advise, when talking about price, is not price, is price plus conditions, okay? But when you're talking about price, what you advise companies or startups to do? Just calculate. Yeah, I know it's difficult, but I'm sure that there are some webs over there that make those calculations like 100 times or 30 times, the investment, and see if with that valuation and the market valuation in 6 years, 7, 5, whatever, what IRR are they gonna have, or you don't recommend those kind of calculations? Maybe they're too technical.
No, it's a very good question actually. And what I would say is for later stage startups, when you have sales and recurring revenues, you can definitely use multiples, even aggressive multiples, because you will be speaking about a number that exists.
Okay.
Like trying to fix a valuation on an assumption that you will achieve this number sometime in the future on the investment of those investors, but charging them as if you already have those sales is a little bit of an overkill.
Yeah.
So for early stage startups, I have a simple math which I always suggest them, and it's based on the following. You define how much of dilutive funding you need. Let's say 200,000. Then acceptable dilution at early stage, it's like between 10 and 20%. That gives you effectively, if you calculate it backwards, like a valuation of 1 to 2 million, let's say.
Okay.
So you put it an aggressive one, like 2.5 maybe, and you negotiate from that point. Because the only consideration here is to give investors a fair deal, but without over diluting yourselves, because then you will have issues with later rounds. And that's even not in the interest of the investors to have too big a chunk in your company, which again, many like young or like entry or investors or family offices, for example, don't understand.
Yeah.
That's how it works in classical world, not
Yeah.
how it works with startups.
Yeah, no, good point, because you know, it's also avoiding dilution means that you don't lose a share of what you own or you have been working on creating, but also that it makes it easier for later rounds in order to get
Of course.
funding. And if you kill that, then
Of course, because investors in later rounds, okay, round A for sure, it's ideal if you still retain a control in the company.
yeah.
Because people still invest in you,
Yeah.
even at round A, because you don't have a very stable revenue stream. Round B onwards, it's starting getting progressively more and more as a classical business with like less and less of a founder role, which is not bad but good for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's when this control in the company stops being so important.
Okay, and you, your experience as an international investor, okay, because we have met in a lot of international events. So I assume that you are also looking to invest in those companies belonging there or companies that attended the event from all around the world. You see, you've mentioned some differences between you know, the Indians, you know, and the Swedish. Do you see other differences, or you can make also some use you know, Barcelona Catalonia ecosystem in comparison to other European countries that maybe they are closer, or we're gonna have like lot of interaction, because mainly you know, Series B, C, D, whatever are that Catalan companies, Catalan startups receive are from international investors. So you see anything that say, wow, this is completely different in other places, or you see as like as same as other markets, or you see some evolution? So just to see how you see from your
That's actually
external point of
an
view.
interesting question, because I am traveling a lot, as you
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
and I'm visiting different ecosystems. This year I've been like from like Bulgaria to Finland,
Yeah.
and to Portugal, from Portugal to Cyprus, like everywhere in Europe and beyond, in Cairo,
And to Denmark also,
to
no?
Denmark
Yeah.
also, yes, kind of. And I would say the following: if it's kind of a different time, different era we are living in. Okay, like the states really lead the way. So then you can have a states, United States on the timeline, and then people kind of lagging behind, like UK a little bit behind, then we have France, Germany behind UK a little, then we have like Spain, maybe more or less on par with French and German, but we have less of later stage rounds, as everybody knows, or maybe like a little behind. And then those kind of go back to 19th century effectively in terms of startups. And you see how it evolves, and it's not linear. People can kind of jump through, like France did with Macron, right?
Yeah.
When they established all that French initiatives, they kind of leapfrogged a lot of time immediately.
Wow.
They've been digital laggards, and like in a couple of years, they kind of made a huge leap forward. So that's definitely fixable. But everybody operates kind of on the same textbook. It's very difficult to invent something really new. So for me, it's just this timeline where those ecosystems are placed, nothing else.
Yeah. I always see like that, you know, because the other day we have Albanian people here, and it's a matter of time also. Time, they mention good choices, of course.
True.
But
You just see in them yourself 10 years ago.
exactly. So you've chosen this.
Yes, I've chosen. It's going back to negotiation how to prepare, and
Okay.
that's how you prepare. You need to understand self and you need to self other.
Okay.
So, and for self, you have data, right? And for other, for investor, you have your assumptions mostly and your research.
Okay, I don't know if people are seeing this slide. Okay, I don't know.
Probably they do. I can just move back like that. Now, maybe they do. If
Okay.
not, again, I will be happy to share with everybody interested.
Cool, thank you.
So, and then as negotiations progress, you change substitutes for other, for data that you gathered, and you adjust your position
Yeah.
according to this data. So this is kind of living and breathing document,
Yeah.
not something set in marble. No.
No, but at
But
least it
data is
reminds
changing
you,
all the
yeah,
time.
but it reminds you where you are, you
Yes,
know, 'cause
yes.
and some following, and also the daily life of a startup sometimes takes you out from this mindset, because this is a process that is going to be very time consuming,
Very,
and
very.
al- and also some
And a lot of rejections, actually.
rejections. I would like to say that, everybody's saying, expert people are telling you that what you are proposing, it's not of interest for them. So that's
Here we
okay.
are.
Here, so go ahead, Andrei.
Yes, so we have now the fashionable thing, non-customer feedback. Understand why people don't buy your product, even if they formally belong to a target audience. So you understand it and change your product. Same story here. You speak with investors, you'll be rejected many times. Again, one of my companies is my favorite example. They spoke with 150 VCs to secure 5 million round from 2. Finally, it's like,
Yeah.
that's the success rate. Maybe a little bit extreme, but that's how it looks. So being rejected is okay. Even if you did your homework, even if people formally invest in what you are building, you'll have more rejections than agreements, because there are just too many startups. They can't invest in everything. What you take out of that? You take out of that why you've been rejected. So you say, thank you very much for the opportunity, let's stay in touch, and by the way, can you just tell me like 3 most important things why we are not a fit?
Do investors usually say that?
Normally, yes,
Share? Yeah.
because again, reciprocity. That's kind of a little bit going back to door in the face. They just
Okay.
rejected you.
Okay.
They don't feel guilty or something. They feel slightly uncomfortable. And if you react in this manner, in a very positive manner, and just ask for a small favor in exchange,
Yeah.
that helps people, investors, feel good.
Yeah.
They share knowledge, helping you to be better.
But sometimes, Andrew, the main reason for a rejection could be the team, and people would say that, investors would say, well, the team is not what we think as capable of carrying.
Ask why?
Yeah.
Ask why?
Okay.
Because
No,
again,
no, because sometimes investors don't want to share that the team was the reason for not investing in
of
the
course,
company.
yes, you can get 100% of honest answers all the time,
Yeah.
but if you continue doing that, it will still be statistically important.
Okay.
And about the team, you have also an opportunity to check it, because team has to be relevant for the project
Yeah.
and cover all the key competences. And if not, you have to have a clear path how to get them.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, if you're just good friends, then
Well,
it's better
sometimes.
better not to start.
Yeah, no, I know, but sometimes you start with the network you have around you, and sometimes friends are the kind of network, that's
Not true, but choose a relevant friend.
Yeah,
You
I
have many friends, let's say. So, but you will be choosing CTO,
yeah,
not because he is like great in drinking beer,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
but because he's great in coding.
Yeah. And another question, because I'm waiting for some more questions in the chat, okay? Because we still have like 5 minutes. Investor feedback, okay? So you know that the majority of investors would reject the investment, okay? But on the other hand, you know that feedback would be valuable for just make some kind of movement, not total movement, not a U-turn, okay, on the company, but some kind of addressing the direction you are taking. So would you start targeting those investors that are not top tier for you, okay? Or you would start with the ones that are top tier? What's your strategy, or what would be a nice strategy to have or to deploy when targeting investors? So maybe your second best is the best at the beginning, just to get some, like some exercise, like use them as a sparring.
I would also refer to our school experience when we're choosing universities.
Yeah,
You don't apply to 20 best, right? You still choose like 3,
Yeah.
4, because it's a lot of work.
yeah,
So I would say kind of find the top 10 maybe, and choose from them first 3 from the top tier and approach them, because again, it will be probably a longer process, a more difficult process, and start working with tier 2 at the same time, because it would be same as universities, would be easier to do.
Okay.
Kind of balance.
Okay,
Balance.
and the top tier, majority of them are going to tell you no, so
Of course.
you will learn also from
Of
them.
course.
Yeah.
Again, you are probably, in many cases, would not be getting investment from top tier, but getting on their radar. Being able to come maybe in a year, and we've been rejected, but we raised money, we accounted for your feedback, we kind of grown, so we are applying again, hoping that we fixed what prohibited you from investing the last time.
Okay, so Andrey, if you don't want to cover any other thing, we can move to the questions.
Yeah, I think I can just put
Yeah,
the final
okay,
slide for
yes.
people to see.
Yeah.
And one message I would like to convey always, like that perseverance is not stubbornness, it's different things. Like,
Can you expand on that? Because
Of
you know, people talk about resilience, about never-ending process, and
of course,
sometimes.
stubbornness, it's for me, again, there's a saying which is not in Einstein's, but it's kind of said to be his, that like the certain sign of stupidity is doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different outcome.
Okay.
So being stubborn, in a sense, it's like that. So you don't hear what's happening, you don't process the feedback and continue doing what you are doing, thinking that you know best. That normally doesn't happen. Perseverance is a different story. You adjust, you're still going where you want to go, but you adjust your course based on the feedback that you receive. Because normally people don't want to harm you, they want to help you.
Yeah.
You are not obliged to take their advice for granted. You need to process that and then make a decision if you take the advice or you don't take advice. But don't reject it like when you receive it. First think, then act. And that's very important consideration, because again, in terms of being flexible, my favorite story is about Google, actually.
Share with us, please.
Yeah, because as you know, Google is written differently, like this number with 1 and 100 zeros. And then we speaking with one of their investors, and he said, okay, I like the idea, I give you money. And he gives them the check of $250,000, and they take it and they see that the name is spelled different, like it's spelled now. If that was not for Sergey Brin, they would probably go back to the guy and say, there's a mistake in the check, I need to issue us another one. But they are Google founders. They say, probably the guy will have a second thought. What they did, change company name and deposited the check.
Wow, that's good. It's a nice thing to be aware of.
So yeah, they've been, they persevere a lot. But they're not stubborn.
No, yeah. Okay, so Andrey, we have some questions. Okay, sure. One, Herman G. If you can answer them, okay. If not, it's okay.
I'll do my best.
Yeah, and I also do my best in order to read the questions. So there's another part which is interpreting them sometimes. How do you feel about the investment in deep tech startups versus IT AI startups? Do you see any change lately?
Yes, actually I do, because Europe now kind of had found an edge where Europe can shine, and that's deep tech actually.
Yeah, good.
And it's very much supported by EIC, European Commission in general. But for me as an investor, I don't invest in deep tech too much for a very particular reason. I don't invest in something I don't understand, at least on a surface level.
Yeah.
When it's deep tech, there are really probably like 10 people on this planet, 120 who know. So we invest when there is somebody in the network who really knows. So otherwise it's religion. It's not economy. You either believe it or not. You can't make it process. But deep tech is coming to the forefront for a very particular reason. With all the advances in materials, in computing power, processing power, in AI, it becomes more and more feasible to commercialize deep tech, which was kind of not possible even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's happening, that's coming, that's a good thing to invest in, but you need to build expertise. That's why you see normally VCs who invest in deep tech, they are specialized in deep tech.
Yeah.
Because they need to invest so much in building capacity, they have no time for nothing else.
Exactly, and sometimes also we say deep tech, but we would like to say, or when we're saying hardware, you know, because in the question says IT, AI. You know, AI it's also deep tech, but you know,
AI is deep tech, yes.
sometimes it's also the hardware
No,
thing,
that's also
for example, new space. I assume that Herman comes from the new space.
important thing again, the clarity of language. What we call what, right?
Yeah.
When people ask me if I invest in AI, I always answer I don't have this kind of money. Because investing in AI for me, meaning investing in OpenAI, in Grok, in like Anthropic,
Mosaic.
yes, in foundational layer.
Okay, foundational layer.
Yes, that's investment in AI.
Okay.
Orchestration layer, application layer is not investing in AI. It's investing in AI-enabled solutions,
Yeah, it's
which is a great thing to do, but it's not AI investment.
okay. Yeah, you're right. It's like having a company digitized. You know,
Yeah, it's
not.
kind of, do I invest in internet companies? Yes, but not invest in internet, like too late. And again, for me, another thing that I'm saying, AI is not about competitive advantage. It's about competitive disadvantage. If you don't use AI, you are disadvantaged. If you use AI, then you're kind of on par with everybody else. It becomes commoditized very fast.
Yeah.
And it will be an enabling layer for everything in no time.
Yeah. Well, good point. Last question from Sergi Mora. In very early stage startups, when numbers or figures are largely hypothetical, what do you actually use as a signal of quality? And how should founders communicate it without overclaiming? What's that signal you
Three
look for?
things.
Three things.
Always. So I need 3 green check marks to continue conversation. And first and foremost is the team. I need to see that the team is experienced enough, professional enough, relevant to what they're building, and that all the core competencies are covered by the founding team or maybe key employees with proper incentives to keep them in place. That's one. That's
At the stage you invest, Andrey, which is
yes.
precedes it.
Yes, no, again, if you don't have this team which cover core competencies, how you plan to build a product?
Okay.
Then we speak about idea stage. Like people come to me and say, I have a great idea. Yeah, what? I want to build this and that. How? I'm figuring that out. Okay, you figure that out, you come back.
Okay.
Because that's not investment. That's would be a speculation already on something happening or not.
Okay.
So you have to have team in place. Second thing, and I really want to kind of punish somebody who invented positioning maps, because this person forgot to mention that we live in 4-dimensional world, meaning like time. We forget about time. And early stage startups, they build those positioning maps, whatever they are, either say with the axis or with the table, and they put themselves like either in the top right corner or put themselves a green check marks everywhere, and their competitors are really don't like have nothing to compete with them. I mean, like, guys, look, this is the people today. Yes. And this is you in a year or a year and a half. Yes. So why do you think that people will still be here and not moving somewhere and capturing exactly that vertical or that space you plan to operate in? And until I have an answer to that, what the competitive modes are and why that. So predictive analytics of competitive landscape.
Yeah.
That's like very important for me, because otherwise it's just a paper exercise. If you understand what I'm speaking about, it's not about certainty, it's about approach, right?
Yeah.
If they understand that, okay, then we continue conversation.
Okay.
If they don't, then it's kind of a no.
Okay.
Third one, go-to-market strategy, actually. How you plan to sell, to whom, with which channels. This is why we almost never invest in B2C. Because that go-to-market in B2C, I always say it's like shooting in the dark.
Yeah.
With the shotgun. Maybe you get a fat target, fat duck, but most probably you won't. Because even very experienced people I see it left and right. They know how to do it. They've been in the business for like 10 years. They try to build it and they can't just capture the audience. It's very evasive, elusive. In B2B, you always know whom to speak with.
Yeah.
Maybe the door is locked for you, but at least you know where to knock.
Yeah.
So go to
More
market.
efficient.
If we have these three components aligned and convincing, okay, then we continue a professional conversation.
Okay, so that was the last question, Andrey. We're on time. Okay, so we'll leave it here. So thank you very much
It was a pleasure.
thank you for attending and gràcies a l'audiència doncs, per seguir aquesta última Startup Talk de l'any 2025 i esperem doncs, tornar-nos a veure el 2026 i que tingueu unes bones festes, bon Nadal i una bona entrada d'any. Moltes gràcies.